Little girl's bold move at a blind date reveals an incredible connection with a single dad CEO. Mia sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, her sketchbook laid out like a canvas ready for creation. Her fingers trembled as she traced the outlines of her drawing, a vibrant scene filled with stick figures, each one representing the family she longed for. The giggles they had once shared now replaced by a heavy silence that swallowed her evenings whole. Her parents' divorce felt like a shadow that darkened every corner of her life. Today, she had a desperate, daring plan to mend the fractures in her mother's heart and maybe, just maybe, her own. Tomorrow, her mother Sarah would go on a blind date with a man named Jake, a CEO, no less. Mia felt a mix of hope and anxiety bubble up inside her. What if the night didn't go well? What if her mother returned home with the same sadness etched into her features? The vision of her mother smiling, really smiling, had become a fading memory. Mia was determined to change that. She needed to ensure this date was special. As the evening approached, the clock ticked louder with each passing minute. Her mother shuffled nervously, trying to appear excited while tension gripped her heart. What if it's awkward? Sarah whispered, mostly to herself. Mia knew all too well that her mother's fear wasn't just about the date. It was the fear of failure, the fear of opening herself up again after love had left its scars. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun slipped below the horizon, Jake's car rolled into their driveway. Mia's heart raced, her excitement tinged with fear. What would he be like? Would he even want to be a part of their lives? She held tightly to her drawing, hidden for now, ready to unleash her boldness when the moment was right. When the door opened, Jake stepped inside, his polished appearance clashing with the hesitance in his eyes. Mia leapt forward, a beacon of enthusiasm that lit up the room, hoping to ease the tension crackling in the air. Throughout dinner, amidst polite chatter and uncertain laughter, Mia peeked at her mother. Sarah's smile was fragile, a thin veneer covering deeper worries. Then, she felt the urge to reveal her creation. I have something, she blurted out, her excitement oblivious to the atmosphere surrounding them. She held up the vibrant drawing, her vision of a happy family, with Jake drawn in. It was pure innocence, a sweet insanity that echoed her hope. The room fell silent. Sarah's face froze, a blend of surprise and vulnerability sweeping across her features. Jake stared, momentarily lost in the simplicity of it. Just like that, the dynamic twisted. Conversations morphed into stories of fears, heartaches, and the tangible weight of love's complexities. But then, just as the laughter began to slice through their reservations, Sarah's pain appeared, raw and untamed. The uncertainty in the air felt almost suffocating as Mia glanced from Sarah to Jake, her heart pounding, throat tight. What if, she thought in anguish, what if this crumbles? This vulnerable moment hung heavy, each breath steeped in unspoken fears, a storm brewing beneath shared smiles. Mia felt the floor beneath her shake. Would they break apart before she had the chance to bring them together? Hope and fear collided in her mind, leaving her teetering on the edge of a possibility she'd dreamt about, but now stood just out of reach. Mia's heart raced as she held her breath, watching the interplay between her mother and Jake. The weight of her drawing felt as heavy as her expectations. Would this be the moment their lives would pivot back toward joy, or would it reinforce the heartache that had taken root in their home? She fought the urge to intervene, allowing silence to stretch unbearably, hoping it would transform into understanding. The gentle clinking of silverware on porcelain felt like distant thunder in a brewing storm. Mia flicked her gaze to Sarah, who was blinking back the vulnerability that threatened to spill over, and then to Jake, whose brow furrowed in contemplation. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. Moments passed like hours, and just as Mia's hope began to flicker, Jake broke the silence. That's a lovely drawing, Mia, he said, a hint of warmth softening his demeanor. Are those stick figures representing your family? Mia nodded, her palms warm and clammy. I drew what I wish we could be again, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. A happy family. The corners of Sarah's mouth twitched upward, but Mia noticed the glimmer of worry still in her eyes. It was a complicated blend of sorrow and possibility. Maybe a fresh start was within reach, but could Sarah let herself risk it? Jake glanced at Sarah, something stirring behind his composed exterior, unearthing the remnants of empathy buried beneath his CEO mask. Families come in all shapes and sizes, he said slowly, and sometimes they transform into something beautiful, even out of the most unexpected beginnings. Mia trained her gaze on her mother, searching for a spark. Sarah met her daughter's eyes and saw the earnest hope there. A soft sigh escaped her lips, the tension in her shoulders relaxing just a fraction. Maybe she started, her voice barely above a whisper. But then, like a flash of lightning, Sarah's old fears surged back. What if I get hurt again? Mia felt a jolt of frustration at her mother's retreat into uncertainty. Mama, you won't know unless you try. You can't just decide things won't work out before you give them a chance. Her own words struck a chord deep within her. She was encouraging her mother to take risks, yet wasn't she afraid, too? As the evening wore on, they moved past dinner, each interaction laced with an undercurrent of unfinished business. Sarah's laughter began to echo slightly more freely, and Jake's responses transformed from polite interest into genuine engagement. They spoke about their lives, painted with the strokes of vulnerability, successes, and failures. In that moment, Mia saw her mother slowly allowing the familiar warmth of connection to wrap around her. With each shared story, with each new laugh, the walls Sarah had built to protect herself began to crack. Mia held her breath, feeling a rush of exhilaration fueled by their progress. Her own apprehensions regressed, replaced by a fierce determination for this to succeed. Then, sensing the shift in energy, Mia seized the moment once more. What if we all did something fun together tomorrow? She blurted out, recognizing her opportunity to build on this fragile moment. We could go to the park or have a movie marathon, maybe even invite some friends. It could be like a family day. Jake's eyes lit up at the suggestion, while Sarah's expression shifted into one of genuine surprise mixed with a hint of joy. Could they really blend their lives in a way that redefined what family meant? The glimmer of possibility was suddenly palpable, but so were the shadows with lingering doubts. Mia felt her pulse quicken again, this new initiative brimming with both potential and peril. Was she ready to push further into this uncertain territory, where failure was as likely as success? As the night unfolded, the prospect of hope began to anchor itself in reality. Would her boldness be enough to truly transform the relationships that meant everything to her? But just as laughter filled the room, Mia couldn't shake the feeling of something unresolved hovering in the air. There was a whisper of danger to come, something lurking beneath the surface of this newfound connection. She sensed it, and suddenly, Mia was determined to uncover what shadows still remained. In a world filled with possibilities, one question loomed larger than the rest. Would this budding family withstand the storm of old wounds, or would they crumble under their own weight? Mia awoke the next morning with a mix of hope and apprehension coiling in her stomach. The prospect of a family day filled her with a sense of purpose, yet a creeping dread whispered of potential disappointments. She dressed quickly, allowing the steady rhythm of her actions to drown out doubt. Today could be a turning point, a leap into a future where vulnerability might transform into affinity. Standing in the kitchen, she prepared breakfast, focusing on the details, the way the syrup glistened, the sound of bacon sizzling in the pan. Each sound seemed to encourage her, reinforcing the mission she had set for herself, to fortify the fragile bonds that had begun to form. She glanced at her mother, who trudged in, her hair tousled like the remnants of a fading storm. "Morning, Mama," Mia said cheerfully, trying to lift the heaviness lingering around them. "Morning," Sarah replied with a soft smile, but Mia noted the way her mother's brow furrowed slightly in trepidation. "Excited for today?" Mia asked, attempting to coax more than a mere acknowledgement from her. "Yeah, I guess," Sarah murmured, her uncertainty palpable. Mia's mind raced. She had to show Sarah the depth of this chance. Remember, you can't get hurt if you don't take the leap. Just be open. It's one day. Sarah looked down at the plate Mia had set for her, a small flicker of resolve breaking through the morning haze. Today wasn't just about laughter, it was an invitation for her mother to connect, to shed the weight of past disappointments. When Jake arrived, his presence instantly shifted the atmosphere. Mia felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. He wore a casual demeanor, reminiscent of the fatherly figure she yearned for. Despite his suits and ties, he was still a man navigating an uncertain emotional landscape, just as they all were. Ready for some fun? He asked, flashing a smile that sparked an answering warmth in Mia's chest. Absolutely, Mia replied, trying to infuse the day with her boundless energy. She cast a sideways glance at Sarah, gauging her reaction. The momentary flicker of interest on her mother's face reassured Mia that this day could indeed be a fresh start. At the park, they found themselves enveloped in laughter as they played frisbee, Sarah slowly letting go of her inhibitions with each throw and catch. Mia watched her mother's eyes soften, brightening with every passing moment. It was exhilarating to witness the cautious thaw in her mother's heart. Yet, Mia noticed how Jake's laughter sometimes faded just slightly, as if memories weighed down his spirited exterior. Later, they settled on a bench after a game. As the sun began to dip, casting a warm glow across the park, Jake turned to Sarah, the tension between them palpable. "You've been through a lot, Sarah," he said, his tone measured. "Listen, I might not be the perfect guy, but I want you to know I'm here to understand. I can't promise everything will be perfect, but I want to try." Mia's pulse quickened at the vulnerable turn in the conversation. This was at the turning point they had all been tiptoeing around, an invitation to dig deeper into their fears. But at the same moment, she couldn't help but sense Jake's confession might introduce more complications than resolutions. She watched her mother intently, silently urging her to respond. Sarah looked at Jake, hesitation clouding her expression, a mixture of longing and fear reflected in her eyes. "Mia," Jake said suddenly, his focus shifting back to her, "what do you think, should we give this a shot? Could we be a family?" Mia felt her heart soar and sink in the same instant. Here was something she had yearned for, something her mother might not be ready to fully grasp. It felt monumental, yet precariously fragile. Jake's gaze remained steady, but she sensed the vulnerability in his ask, an unguarded admission of his own. As hopeful as this moment felt, it was interlaced with complexity. What if they couldn't conquer the shadows lurking in their hearts? Mia swallowed hard. "We have to be ready for everything," she said cautiously, her voice steady. "This can be an adventure, but we can't ignore that it might be hard." The air thickened with unspoken fears, and she wondered if everyone was ready to confront the shadows together. Just as she felt emboldened by her own conviction, echoes of doubt set off as shivering ripples deep inside her. As she glanced between Sarah and Jake, a powerful realization washed over her. This was not only about them, but also about her. Could she step into new territory, becoming a catalyst for healing and connection? And then came the silent question, hummed in the space between them: would they all be willing to face the depths of their pasts to truly build a future together? Or would they retreat, leaving unhealed wounds that would shadow them indefinitely? Her daring invitation had ignited the flare of possibility, but she couldn't shake the fear that progress would mean facing the storm lurking on the horizon once more. The sun faded, and an awkward silence settled like a thick fog, wrapping around their trio, each of them cocooned in their own swirling thoughts. Mia absorbed the moment, allowing the weight of their shared vulnerability to dictate her next move. She would not let fear govern the conversation. Today could very well be the intersection of their pasts and futures. "Jake," she began, forcing herself to meet his steady gaze, "let us not just dance around what we want. What do you really envision for us? This whole situation?" Jake's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of surprise betraying his composure. For a fleeting moment, Mia wondered if she'd misstepped, but then she felt a surge of defiance. She wanted clarity, they all did. This was the time for honesty, not just nice words wrapped in good intentions. He inhaled deeply, as though gathering the courage to share. I want to create a space where we can each be ourselves. I want to be here for both of you. If we can acknowledge our pasts, maybe we can build a better future. The solemnity of his words hit Mia hard. What he was asking for a mutual unmasking was daunting, yet, the potential on the other side of it intrigued her deeply. Would they all allow their history to define their present? Sarah shifted uncomfortably on the bench, a tangible tension radiating from her. Mia could see her mother wrestling with the ghosts of their shared history, and it stung. "Mom, what are you feeling?" she urged gently. The vulnerability could slip through their fingers if no one dared to embrace it, and she was not about to let that happen. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but only silence spilled out. The flickering hope Mia had felt earlier dimmed as she sensed her mother's retreat. "Sarah," Jake interjected softly, "it's okay to share your fears." Mia held her breath, a sense of urgency flooding her veins. "Mom, we're not here to judge. We want to understand what you need. What do you want?" After a few agonizing moments, Sarah looked up, tears brimming in her eyes. I'm scared. Scared of getting hurt again, scared of getting your hopes up and, well, letting you down." Mia felt the surge of compassion wash over her. This was the crux of it, the open wound they needed to address for the healing to begin. "But you won't know unless you try, right?" "Maybe," Sarah replied, her voice shaky but resonant. "But trying means risking everything. It means facing who we were, who I was." Mia could feel the current of past pain pulsing through that admission, and it stung. Yet it also ignited a spark of resolve within her. "But Mom, who you were doesn't have to dictate who you'll become. We're all allowed to change." The conversations felt like fragile threads being woven together, their individual struggles merging into a complex tapestry of potential. Her initial leap of faith had transformed into a profound connection among them, but Mia was painfully aware that reconciliation required far more than words. Jake nodded in agreement, leaning forward, his tone earnest. "We can take this at our pace. There's no rush, only an opportunity to discover the layers of this family." Mia felt a shift. The gravity of their discussion opened a chasm of hope, but it also laid bare the fear of disappointment. The laughter and frisbee games had been simple distractions, and now it felt as though they were standing at the edge of something vast and formidable. "Let us meet again," Mia proposed, her heart thundering. "We need a plan. We have to talk about what the future looks like, not just for today but for tomorrow too." "Tomorrow?" Jake echoed, the tremor of expectation lacing his voice. "Yes," Mia affirmed, emboldened by the moment. "Let us not let this flame extinguish. If we start now, we can face whatever storms lie ahead." Sarah looked between them, a flicker of determination shimmering in her tears. For the first time, Mia sensed her mother might lean into the risks instead of shying away. But as she caught Jake's hopeful gaze, the wall of uncertainty loomed larger in her mind. Each promise was a potential burden. Every step into unfamiliar territory could lead to unforeseen heartbreak. As they left the park, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning of an intricate dance, one filled with as much potential for heartache as for healing. They stood on the precipice of something meaningful, but the unknown still loomed ahead, dark and full of echoes from their pasts. Would they truly be willing to forge a path together, or would their fears pull them back into the shadows? The question, heavy and urgent, hung in the air as they departed, each of them grappling with what it meant to truly become a family. Mia tossed and turned that night, her mind refusing to quiet as the weight of the day's revelations played repeatedly like a broken record. She had taken a leap, embracing the uncertain and the complex, yet now the implications of her bold move left her feeling raw. The vulnerability she had exposed felt like an insatiable beast, lurking in the shadows, waiting to rear its head again. The next morning arrived, sunlight spilling through her curtains like a harbinger of fresh beginnings. Yet, instead of excitement, Mia felt a swell of anxiety. Encounters with Jake and Sarah lay ahead, and that anticipation twisted her stomach into knots. She had initiated the hard conversation, they were now poised at the brink of something transformative, and the possibility of failure hung heavily in the air. As she prepared for the day, Mia traced her fingers over the small, framed picture of her childhood self and her mother. In that image, a small girl beamed up at a woman who seemed both strong and fragile. Was that strength something she had inherited? Or was it merely an illusion? This was the question that gnawed at her the most. She ached to know how to navigate the challenges ahead without becoming engulfed in her mother's fears. Determined to refocus her mind, Mia opted for a brisk walk. The park loomed larger than life, each tree blooming towards the sky as though their branches were stretching for possibilities. Maybe today would indeed bring clarity. As she arrived at the designated meeting spot, the tension hit her like a wall. Jake was already there, appearing more composed than she felt. The slight crease in his brow gave away his own inner turmoil. They exchanged quick hellos, both hesitant to dive into the depths of what lay ahead. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," he began, his voice steady. Mia nodded, her heart pounding in anticipation. "We need a framework for our future conversations. Something to make sure we aren't just dancing around our pasts." "Yes," Mia agreed, her ideas rushing to the forefront of her mind. "Each of us has our own narrative, but we should also recognize how they intertwine. We should draw boundaries too, so we don't overwhelm ourselves too quickly." Jake's eyes lit up with understanding. "What if we set aside a framework of topics? One for each meeting? For this one, we could focus on the past, understanding how it shapes us." Mia shivered at the thought. Acknowledging their histories was vital, but was she truly ready to dig into the hurts that had shaped her and her family? "That makes sense, but it's a risk," she cautioned. "What if the deeper we go, the harder it gets to climb back out?" Jake paused, his expression contemplative. "But avoiding it might just keep us bound to the same cycles. To truly break free, we must take those risks." His conviction sparked a fire within Mia. Yet another layer of uncertainty washed over her. And what if it doesn't work? What if we're left even more broken than we started? Then we'll know. And knowing itself is already a step forward, isn't it? He paused, as though gauging her internal conflict. "We owe it to ourselves and to your mom to try." Mia's heart thudded. She recalled her mother's tears, her own childhood memories, and the palpable longing to forge something different. "You're right," she murmured, the resolve building within her. "But it has to be paced. Can we agree to check in with each other emotionally throughout the process?" Jake nodded solemnly, the understanding between them blossoming like the vibrant flowers around them. When Sarah finally arrived, her demeanor was noticeably more composed than the day before. The tentative smile she offered hinted at a willingness to engage. With Jake and Sarah sharing cautious but optimistic glances, Mia's resolve solidified. If they fell into the depths of painful memories, they could rise together. But as they gathered their courage to begin the sharing, another thought emerged in Mia's mind, a stark revelation that threatened to unearth yet more profound complexities. What if they started to unveil painful truths that had long been buried, truths that might shake their already fragile dynamics to the core? The air around them tightened, pregnant with unuttered fears and tentative hope. Mia, feeling the weight of time pressing upon them, prepared to step into the depths of their shared histories, knowing that whatever lay ahead could further fracture their already fragile bond or, perhaps, render it stronger than ever. As the conversation began, Mia realized this was more than a discussion, it was a delicate dance on the precipice of vulnerability. Would they tread lightly enough to avoid stumbling, or would they plunge into the unforgiving abyss? The answer remained veiled, intertwined with the fragile threads of their pasts. Mia inhaled deeply, the air prickling with anticipation and fear. A silence hung heavily, each second ticking away with the burden of unspoken feelings. She felt as if an invisible weight was pressing down on her chest, a reminder of the walls built around her heart. In her mind, the past loomed, a shadowy figure threatening to swallow them whole if they dared to confront it. Jake was the first to break the silence. "I think we should start with our family dynamics, what it was like growing up," he suggested gently, his eyes searching Mia's for approval. The proposition felt like a lifeline, yet the thought of revisiting childhood memories left Mia feeling vulnerable, almost exposed. "Sure," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. I can start. With each recollection, Mia felt as if she was peeling back layers of herself. She spoke of birthday parties learned to perform not for joy but for perfection, the expectations that felt heavier than any celebratory atmosphere. Memories of her mother's laughter turned bitter in hindsight. It was meant to be warmth, but in the silent moments of attempted communication, it often morphed into an unfulfilled silence that enveloped everything. Did your mom impose a lot of expectations on you? Sarah asked, her tone gentle, yet probing. Yes, Mia admitted, not realizing how much she had been bottling up until now. It wasn't just expectations, it was the feeling that I needed to be perfect, to make up for everything. Jake looked intently at her, as if trying to comprehend the full weight of her words. The pressure to be perfect can be crippling, he replied. I felt the same growing up. My father had an image he wanted me to maintain. As Jake unveiled his own story, Mia felt a growing sense of camaraderie. It wasn't just her burden of expectation. Jake carried his own, the two of them tethered by experiences that were both isolating and familiar. Yet behind the comfort lay another layer of apprehension. What if their revelations unearthed more than they anticipated? Yet, instead of crumbling under the weight of their confessions, Mia found herself standing taller. It was a strange sensation, like shedding old skin. The more she spoke, the more vulnerable truths seemed to slip out, like a long-buried treasure chest finally unlocked. Sometimes I think my mother never wanted me to grow up. It was easier to keep me a child. Maybe she thought that if I remained unblemished, she could, too. A shift occurred in the air. Sarah's eyes glistened, compassion washing over her face. You're not defined by her fears, Mia, she whispered earnestly. You have the power to forge your own destiny. Mia nodded, the spring of determination bubbling beneath her surface. I want to break that cycle, she declared, a fierce determination filling her voice. For myself. For any future I might have. The power of those words reassured her, ignited something she thought long forgotten. Jake's eyes communicated understanding, but also something deeper, an eagerness to not just listen but to join her journey. This realization was almost intoxicating, creating an electric connection that seemed to pulse between them. But as invigorating as that prospect felt, it raised unease. Could this connection truly lead to transformation, or was it just another transitory moment in a series of misguided attempts? Am I enough to carry this weight? Mia questioned silently, the concern clawing at her insides. The anxiety rippled through her, a constant reminder of the lingering doubt that had dogged her since childhood. Let us not manufacture outcomes we haven't reached yet, Jake countered, reading the change in her aura. Growth is not linear, it's messy and uncomfortable. But we have to step forward with intention. Mia took a breath, looking both Jake and Sarah in the eyes, searching for the anchor of reassurance in their understanding gazes. Together, they had touched the surface of a dormant volcano of shared pain, yet the eruption felt impending. But the real question loomed larger than before: what if they unearthed truths too heavy to bear? Could a bond forged in shared trauma withstand the tremors of vulnerability unleashed? As she prepared to delve deeper, the fear amplified within the crevices of her mind, urging caution. This was not just about the past, this was a pivotal point. The moment of truth was upon them, and Mia's next words, the ones she was about to say, would either solidify their bond or overwhelm them with consequences beyond their imagination. Mia's heart raced as her mind wrestled with the enormity of what came next. The atmosphere thickened, making it almost suffocating. Her fingers twitched at her sides, the urge to fidget battling against her need to stay composed. Turning her gaze to the comfortingly familiar faces of Jake and Sarah, she sensed an unspoken agreement binding them, a pact of sorts, to explore uncharted territories of their pasts together. With a deep breath that anchored her thoughts, she decided to plunge into the depths of her hidden pain. I feel that so much of my life was dictated by my need to appease everyone else. The revelation came forth unbidden, each word wrapped in the honesty she had long buried. It's as if I never truly defined who I am, I've only been a reflection of what others wanted to see. Jake leaned forward, his expression morphing into one of intense concentration. What do you want to see, Mia? He asked. It was a simple question, yet its simplicity made the weight more profound. I want to, she hesitated, grappling with the sheer scope of that answer. I want to be strong. I want to stand apart from their expectations and make my own choices, even if they're difficult. The floodgates began to open, and Mia allowed herself to explore the memories that shaped her. The feelings of inadequacy that had always entangled her every decision surged to the surface. Moments of her childhood adventures spent hidden away, victories ignored, relationships sacrificed on the altar of perfection poured through her mind like a slippery, fractured film reel. And what if those choices lead to disappointment? Sarah interjected, the concern etched into her brows. Then I'll move on, Mia replied, her own surprise palpable. I can't let fear govern me anymore. I refuse to be that little girl who flinches every time someone raises their voice or questions my ambition. The steadiness of her voice reflected a growing resolve. Each uttered phrase was a step toward liberation, a reclamation of her spirit. Jake's eyes sparkled with admiration. That's the spirit, he exclaimed, the energy around them humorously charged. Learning to stand by your choices, even the wrong ones, is a colossal part of growth. Mia felt an unexpected warmth swelling inside her chest. It was as if a flicker of light had emerged from the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. You're right, she conceded. But what if I stumble? What if I fall back into old patterns? Can I truly change? I can't tell you that you 1T slip, Jake said, his voice steady. The past 1T vanish overnight. It's about progress, not perfection. Embracing the process, allowing setbacks to teach you rather than shame you. That's true bravery. Their conversation rolled like waves, washing away the remnants of her self-doubt, replacing it with an empowering clarity. Still, a shadow of uncertainty accompanied the thrill of her newfound resolve. The bond that had emerged felt like a lifebuoy amidst the tumult of emotions, but it also beckoned with the burden of expectations. Determined to confront the shifting tides within herself and the rapport with Jake, she took the plunge once more. I want to help others too, with their struggles. To perhaps even lead them towards facing their own truths. The spark in Mia's voice became infectious, as she watched realization dawn in Jake's and Sarah's expressions. Wow, I hadn't considered that, Jake replied, inching closer, inspired. You could channel this journey into something powerful. With this new perception empowering her, Mia felt the whispers of doubt lessen, replaced by a daring vision for herself and others who battled similar demons. Yet, a lingering apprehension persisted beneath the excitement. She could feel the impending reality of responsibility creeping at the edges of her consciousness. Was it truly possible for her to shift from a bystander in her life to an active creator of change? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. And then, as if a fresh spark lit inside her, she found the courage to ask the question that had lingered unvoiced. Will you join me in this journey? Are we ready to take this bold step together? Just then, the silence in the room thickened with anticipation, each of them grappling with the weight of what commitment would mean, their uncharted paths spinning before them like a kaleidoscope of possibility and peril. What could possibly go wrong when you entangle aspirations with shared vulnerabilities? The tension hung in the air, electric and alive, as Mia awaited Jake's response. His brow furrowed, deep in thought, and she could almost see the gears turning in his mind. Mia felt a flicker of vulnerability as her proposal hung unhurriedly in the balance. Her heart raced anew, the idea of not just turning the page, but rewriting the whole narrative made her pulse quicken. Finally, Jake's face broke into a smile, an expression of recognition. I'd be honored to be part of this, Mia. Helping others find their strength alongside you seems like a worthwhile endeavor. The sense of camaraderie in his voice ignited something deep within her, and she swelled with hope. Sarah's enthusiasm matched Jake's. Count me in as well. We can learn from each other and draw strength from our experiences. We all have the potential to help those still in the shadows. Mia felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, emotions heated and vulnerable. This choice, hanging in the air all too real, stripped her bare of the fear she had so long clung to. The thought of supporting others solidified her sense of purpose, marking the point of no return. A tremor ran through her as she pondered the commitment they had collectively just made. What did it mean to lead? How could she shape this responsibility without succumbing to the very fears she had vowed to conquer? She needed a plan. Questions surged into her mind, intertwining with her ambitions. Before we set off on this journey, we should talk about our own experiences first, Mia proposed, her voice steadier than she felt. We can't help others effectively without understanding our own stories. As they delved into discussions filled with anecdotes of struggle, Mia learned more about herself reflected in the stories of her friends. Jake's tale of overcoming setbacks in his career propelled her conviction. His vulnerability drew a parallel to her own fears of failure and rejection. Sarah's narrative of anxiety and self-doubt resonated so deeply that Mia felt as if she were experiencing it firsthand. Each story became a testament to resilience, feeding her resolve to embrace her vulnerabilities head-on. Realizing that their struggles were not unlike the ones faced by those she hoped to help, a renewed determination surged within her. This was not a mere personal journey, it was a collective undertaking that bred accountability. As they spoke, she began to envisage what this mentorship could truly look like. In that moment of clarity, Mia's mind raced ahead to workshops filled with shared experiences, to community discussions illuminating truths long cloaked in shadow. Could she inspire others to rise above their struggles as she was daring to do for herself? However, the soaring hope bore an eerie echo of doubt. What if their efforts fell flat? What if her own image as a pretender was revealed as she stood in front of others sharing ideas, hoping to encapsulate their journey? But deep down, she realized that these very conversations were the foundation of connection, real and raw. With a surge of need to confront the very fears that threatened to unduly anchor her, she said, "I think it's time we not just plan this journey, but start small, right where we are. We can open a dialogue with ourselves and see where that leads first." Jake and Sarah nodded, energized by her ambition. But before they could dive into further discussions, Mia felt a sharp pang of something akin to trepidation. She knew they had to face local stories of struggle, real people with real pain, which could kickstart their transformative mission. "Let us do it," she exclaimed, eyes alight with determination. "Let us take the leap right now." But just as excitement bubbled over, another thought crept into her mind about the implications of this newfound direction. What did this commitment entail, both personally and professionally? Did she have what it takes to navigate the complexities of guiding others while maintaining her own course? Their pact had formed, seemingly concrete, but the realities lay ahead untamed and unpredictable. Mia found herself questioning the weight of her aspirations and whether, amidst the clarity of her convictions, real change was merely a few courageous conversations away or forever out of reach. As they stood on the precipice of their ambitions, a shadow loomed over them. Who would they attract, and how vulnerable would they truly be prepared to make themselves? Anxiety whispered the potential of failure, challenging the resolve that seemed so firm just moments prior. Mia took a deep breath, her resolve unwavering. "Okay, we're committed. But where do we begin?" And with that question echoing in the silence, uncertainty flickered on the horizon. Just as she leaned into the collective sharing of vulnerability, snakes of doubt curled around the broader vision. What if the path forward led to deeper challenges than she anticipated, making her question the legitimacy of their purpose? Would they falter under the weight of expectations or rise stronger together? Mia focused on the shimmering glimmer of possibility, her heart beating in rhythm with the weight of what lay ahead. Her determination had crystallized into something palpable, but at the same time, nebulous thoughts swirled in her mind, tugging at the edges of her confidence. "How about we start with a small gathering?" Jake suggested, his enthusiasm surfacing in the form of a practical plan. A casual meetup where people can share their stories in an open forum. His idea resonated with Mia, but beneath that tantalizing prospect simmered her fear. What if the stories they unearthed were too raw, too personal to handle in a group setting? "Yeah, but what if we're not ready for that yet?" Mia countered, her voice shaky, revealing the fissures in her certainty. "What if we can't facilitate the conversation, or worse, what if we trigger some painful memories without knowing how to lead people through it?" Jake's expression softened, sensing the depth of her trepidation. "We've all shared our experiences, but there's a difference between sharing among friends and leading a group." Maybe we could have a prep meeting first, develop some guidelines for how to approach it. Mia weighed this suggestion carefully, envisioning the potential of a curated meetup rich with shared vulnerabilities. It was as if Jake's words acted as a boat, gently guiding her through a tumultuous sea of doubt. Yet the thought of laying bare her own struggles in a room full of strangers terrified her. If we open up like that, it might expose parts of us we're not ready to unveil. I'm worried about losing control or being overexposed, she admitted, her brow furrowing deeper. Sarah jumped in, her voice steady. But isn't that the point? To show that we're all in this together? Even leaders have to be vulnerable sometimes. The thought resonated within Mia, resonating like distant thunder. It hit home that perhaps she needed to navigate this fear, not sidestep it. But the idea of standing in front of an audience made her stomach churn. What if we prepared our own stories first, practiced them together? That way, we can provide a safe framework for others to follow, Mia suggested, feeling a surge of purpose. The notion of rehearsal made her feel less alone. If they cultivated a supportive environment, maybe vulnerability wouldn't feel like a solitary plunge into darkness. Immediately, Jake and Sarah nodded in agreement, and a flicker of hope ignited within Mia. As they outlined their plan over coffee, ideas began flowing, each one building on the last and intermingling with each of their own struggles. They were building a tapestry of intent, stitched together by their common experiences. But even as plans took shape, Mia wrestled anew with lingering doubts. What if her speech faltered? What if she felt exposed when the spotlight landed on her? Conversations about raw emotion could spiral into irrevocable chaos. Failure could plunge them into regret. The potential for missteps clamored in her mind like an out-of-tune orchestra. We'll be fine, Jake declared, lifting a mug in jest, just like practicing for a big performance. Mia chuckled nervously, but inwardly, she questioned if this was indeed like a performance. Was she ready to step beyond a familiar role and embrace a genuine connection? Could she transform her past fragility into strength before others? As they concluded their meeting, Mia felt emboldened by the team's synergy. But with the excitement came the anxiety, a dark undercurrent of worry drumming incessantly in her mind. Pressures to articulate ideas clearly, to inspire trust, spiraled her thoughts into helplessness. That evening, she sat at her desk, papers strewn before her like confetti, reflecting on drifting ideas. Who would attend their initial gathering? Would the local audience be receptive or skeptical? Just better or worse, did she have the mental resolve to withstand group dynamics? With every anxious thought, her resolve felt like paper-thin ice. It was then Mia made the decision that swept over her with resolve. She would seek out mentors who had guided others through similar endeavors. Their experiences might anchor her own aspirations and replace the clouds of doubt with rays of clarity. But as the sun began to rise the next morning, a deeper truth whispered to her. Could she truly find guidance, or was it within her all along? The very act of pursuing knowledge could fortify her spirit. She realized that it was time to confront the potential for failure head-on. Armed with a newly kindled incandescence of conviction, Mia planned to reach out to local leaders in the mentorship realm for insight. Just as she embraced that realization, a question prickled at the back of her mind. How would her own journey through this experience reflect upon her ambitions? And with that lingering thought, she prepared to take the first step, the lines of uncertainty still hazy but exhilaratingly imminent. Mia stood tall in front of an audience, the whispers of doubt that once threatened to hijack her resolve now stilled into a quiet determination. The event, a small gathering, was the culmination of her hope and hard work, a symbolic leap into uncharted waters where vulnerability would become the bridge to connection. As she glanced at the faces in the crowd, both familiar and new, a sense of purpose surged through her veins. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the beginning of a journey where her aspirations to inspire and uplift others would take flight. Gone were the days of feeling overshadowed by the expectations of family and society. Mia was here to share not just her struggles, but the invaluable lessons learned in the process. Mia, Jake whispered from the sidelines, breaking through her pre-speech reverie, you got this. Just be yourself. His encouragement provided her with the quiet strength she needed, a gentle reminder that she didn't have to carry this burden alone. Swallowing the lump in her throat, Mia stepped forward. Hello everyone, she began, her voice steady yet tinged with the anticipation of what lay ahead. Thank you all for coming here today. I know sharing isn't always easy, but I believe that openness can help us heal. Each word spilled forth like a long-awaited confession, unearthing the foundational truths that shaped her life. She shared candidly about her childhood, the weight of expectations, and the emotional chasm that often left her feeling lonely even in a crowded room. I've struggled with being seen and being heard, and learning to embrace my own voice has been a journey. But I'm here today because I want to help others discover their voices too. As she spoke, she witnessed a palpable shift in the room. Eyes widened in recognition, nods of understanding rippled through the audience. Mia was not alone. Her experiences resonated with those around her. Together, they engaged in heartfelt discussions, each sharing their own stories of vulnerability intertwined with triumph. This collective tapestry of shared experiences gradually wove together a new reality filled with support. Mia watched as strangers formed connections, bared their souls, and extended a hand of empathy. The flood of warmth traveling through her affirmed her vision was not merely a dream but tangible and possible. With each exchange, the act of sharing became transformative. Mia could see shackles breaking as members of the crowd unraveled their guarded hearts. She felt wholly present, grounded in the authenticity of the moment, reminding herself that she was leading this charge not from a place of infallibility but one of understanding and resolve. After the event concluded, Mia felt a swell of satisfaction dance in her chest. She had achieved something profound. She had turned her own pain into purpose, transforming it into an avenue for others to find freedom. Those lingering shadows of fear had begun to lift, revealing a landscape of celebration and unity that she hadn't anticipated. Well done, Mia, Jake said as they began to pack up the abandoned chairs. You didn't just lead a gathering, you forged real connections. Mia smiled, feelings of recognition igniting a familiar warmth. I couldn't have done it without you, Jake. We did this together. As they stepped outside, the cool breeze brushed against her face like an embrace, buoying her spirits, reminding her that every step on this journey counted. She glanced at the sky, the deepening hues of twilight embodying the intricate dance between endings and new beginnings. The next few weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of opportunities. Social media buzzed with the aftermath of their gathering, individuals seeking follow-up meetups, serving as a testament that Mia's vulnerability was a catalyst for communal healing. She had no idea her first event would resonate so deeply. Feeling an invigorating sense of responsibility towards newly forged connections, she organized workshops tailored for those seeking guidance on navigating emotional challenges. The secret of her journey wasn't just in advocating for herself, it became a commitment to uplift others. Mia reveled in the joy of fostering a safe space for individuals to share their stories. She curated conversations rich with emotion and supported others in their own journeys, all while gaining insights that continued to fuel her own growth. With each passing day, Mia reconstructed the framework of her identity, pushing back against the self-doubt that once anchored her. This was more than an individual feat, it had blossomed into a collective movement, fortifying the bonds between her and others who were confronting their own shadows. And as she reflected on the path that had led her here, she realized she had not only uncovered her voice but had established resilience within herself. The newly founded mentoring program she had initiated would touch lives far beyond her imagination. Looking back at the little girl who had silently dreamed of family connections transformed by courageous choices, she now embraced a future brimming with endless possibilities. Mia had not just achieved her aim, she had proven to herself that she could reshape her narrative, one story at a time. It was clear now, personal growth is an unending journey. And with each small victory, she reinforced her place as a beacon of hope for those daring enough to step into the light of their own truths. To truly illustrate this journey's significance, it was vital for Mia to invite others along to inspire them to share in her journey of transformation. Now, as she stepped into this new chapter with solid confidence, creme de la creme competence, an established position in her community, Mia harnessed the power of vulnerability to rewrite the narratives that connected them all. Don't wait even one more second to share this journey of growth with others who need to hear it. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread the power of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspirational path. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who have their own stories to unfold and need to be part of this transformative experience.